Yes, you saw that right. There is, in fact, a One Piece Monopoly game. That is something that occupies the reality that you and I are living in right this very moment. Were you aware of this fact? Because I certainly wasn't. I didn't even know this existed until last week. By the way, I should bring up right now, this is not like a sponsored thing or something. This was just me walking through a mall doing some Christmas shopping, which in and of itself is insane. Yeah, that's right. I was in a mall, an honest-to-God mall. I was exploring the ruins of a lost civilization. I was doing research on the Void Century when I stumbled upon this relic of our ancient past. But no, I was in the mall, and there's a store in the mall. I don't remember the name. I don't even know if it has a name. It's the calendar store. It's the store that just has like a giant wall of calendars that everybody goes into this time of year to buy calendars for people's Christmas presents, because everybody always gets a calendar for their Christmas present, right? And there's also board games in there, and there's like a bunch of like toys and like a big wall of pop figurines. You know, it's that store that I don't know the name of. I don't think anybody does, but it's a store that we all know exists, right? So I'm walking by this store, and there's a big banner that says One Piece Monopoly. And I'm like, all right, well, I'm pretty much obligated to own that, right? I mean, I have to talk about it. Of course I do. So I went and I got it. And yeah, any big Monopoly fans in the audience? You know, there's this one person that's been watching me for years that's just been like, man, teching, I've been really waiting for you to talk about Monopoly, and now here's the day for this. I'm going to go brew up some tea, and I'm going to sit down, and I'm going to enjoy this video. I don't know. Do what you need to do. Brew up whatever you need to brew up. Smoke whatever you need to smoke, you know, in order to go on this ride with me. But we're going to be talking about One Piece Monopoly. So the next question on your mind after learning that One Piece Monopoly exists, the next question would probably be, why, though? And then the next question after that would probably be, is it any good? I mean, it's One Piece Monopoly. It's not like they're going to change the rules or anything around. It's basically just Monopoly, but, you know, One Piece. I guess the better question to ask is this like a profound labor of love that was made by a group of people that like actually read One Piece, and there's like a lot of immersion into the One Piece story, like a lot of references to the manga and the anime and everything like that, you know, fans of the story will understand. Is it that, or is it more of just like quick cash grab, just take Monopoly, throw a quick, very thin layer of One Piece paint over it and just ship it out? Is it more of that? Well, yeah, I think we all know the answer to that question. It's definitely the latter. I mean, I like Monopoly. I haven't played it in quite some time, but I remember liking Monopoly when I was a kid. We had like the classic, you know, Monopoly board here. I also bought this at the store. This is the 1980s edition. Like, this is a redone version that came out recently, but this was the Monopoly board that I played when I was a kid, essentially. I also had some themed ones. We had two versions of the Simpsons Monopoly, like a regular Simpsons with different locations all over Springfield, and then there was a Treehouse of Horror Simpsons Monopoly, which was probably my favorite, and that was really fun. I think we also had the Pokemon Monopoly, because during Pokemania in the late 90s, like, everything was Pokemon. So we probably had that too. I always wanted my parents to play it. I always used to bug my mom to play Monopoly. She always tried to get me to play something else that was like quicker, like how about we play Trouble instead, or Yahtzee? We could get through Yahtzee in like 15-20 minutes. Monopoly takes like an hour, you know. But I liked playing it when I was a kid. But man, it's been probably well over a decade at this point since I've ever sat down for a rousing game of Monopoly, right? But as for the rules, I'm just going to go over that really quick, and we're going to see how we could adopt this into a One Piece themed Monopoly. Because honestly, when I saw the big banner for this outside of the unnamed calendar store, I was like, you know what? You could make this work. Like, it's not impossible to make a really good One Piece version of Monopoly, right? But at any rate, here are the rules for just regular, plain Jane Monopoly. So you got the game board here. It consists of 28 properties that can be purchased. These consist of 22 streets, 4 railroads, and 2 utilities. Additionally, the board has 3 community chests and 3 chance card spaces, as well as 2 tax spaces, one for income tax and the other is luxury tax. Lastly, 4 unique unique spaces occupy the corners of the board. The go space is where you start the game and receive a $200 salary each time you pass it. Then you have the go to jail and jail spaces respectively. Those are self-explanatory. And then finally, the free parking space. That's Monopoly. And then the whole goal of the game is to purchase property, place houses and hotels on them. When another player lands on those properties, they have to pay you rent, and you win when everybody else goes bankrupt. Okay, that's the overall premise of Monopoly. So, if, let's say, I was given the job to take that game and make it One Piece themed, you know, let's say we were given that job as One Piece fans, what would you do? Because I arrived at the conclusion pretty quickly that I'm sure a lot of you have. Like, all right, in order to make a good Monopoly game, like themed on another work of fiction, that work of fiction, that world has to have a lot of locations. Because we're talking about like the 22 different streets in Monopoly, like Mediterranean Avenue or St. James Place or, you know, the Boardwalk or Park Place. You know, you need to have like a lot of street names, so a lot of locations that you can put on the board. And that, I mean, that's One Piece to a T, man. Like, if you're going to pick any anime series to turn into a Monopoly board, that's probably the one to do, because there is an abundance of locations in One Piece. Like, even if you ignore all the side locations, all the islands that are mentioned or just seen that, like, the Straw Hats don't actually go to, if you just stick to the main islands of the story, like Water 7, Ennie's Lobby, Marineford, if you just stick to those alone, you probably have more than enough locations for a standard size Monopoly board, right? So that's the first thing you're thinking of. I also immediately thought, well, you know, Monopoly's all about money, you know, purchasing properties and giving money and stuff like that, and, you know, having to pay taxes and all that stuff, right? You know, it's capitalism, the game. So it's like, there's berries in One Piece, right? They have their own currency. The currency is not some kind of obscure thing in the story, right? Like, it's something that's very prominent on all the wanted posters. That's the whole point, is they have a currency system. So you could have berries as the money in Monopoly. Like, you're looking at this and you're like, that seems kind of fun. You could do some stuff with that, right? Yeah, sure. So, let's talk about the positives. Let's talk about the stuff that I enjoyed about the game first and foremost. So the first thing I really liked, and I was thinking like, oh, for game pieces, why not just make it the 10 Straw Hats as a game pieces? So then you could like pick your favorite Straw Hat and you can move them around the board. And they do that. They do that. So it's 9 Straw Hats sans Jinbei. Jinbei's not included, unfortunately. That makes sense to me, though. I mean, this game, by the way, this game's been out for like a few years now. I think it was released in 2022. There was like a Japanese version, and, you know, there's an American version. I think this version is like a re-release, but I think it has been out for a couple of years now, and I just did not know about this. But yeah, the pieces, I have some of them right here, and I'll go like close-ups of them. Like this is Chopper right here. And I like the fact that they're metal. That's something I've always liked about the Monopoly pieces, is they're not like crappy plastic, you know, game pieces that can break or whatever. Now, obviously, they're just pieces to move around a game board, so they're not the highest level of quality. But they look, I guess, recognizable enough from a distance. Once you start zooming in, their faces kind of look a little warped. Like Frankie's face looks kind of melted. Nami has a giant forehead, and Usopp kind of looks like a meth addict. But, you know, aside from that, I mean, they're recognizable as the Straw Hat crew, so you could pick your favorite Straw Hat. Like, obviously, you know, I'd pick Frankie right here. I'm like, I want to play Frankie. And just like, oh, cool, you play Frankie, I'll play Zoro. Okay, I'll play Brooke, you know. Like, all right, that's a cool thing that they did. They just made the Straw Hats the game pieces. That's good. Something else that I really like that they did is in Monopoly, you got the 2 decks of cards that you draw from. And these decks of cards are the Community Chest and Chance. They're usually there for the sake of, like, you know, going back a few spaces or advancing to another point on the board, or you owe taxes, so pay this much money, or you win second place at a beauty contest, so you get money, or you get an inheritance and you get money. That's like the whole point of the cards. So they changed the Community Chest into just treasure chest cards. And I thought that was a pretty cool idea. I mean, they're pirates after all. I mean, on the board, it just says chest. I don't know why they couldn't call them treasure chests. That's a little bit of a nitpick, but whatever. Yeah, it's clearly a treasure chest. They have some cool artwork there. That's neat. And then the chance cards are flag cards. So it has the images of the Straw Hat Jolly Roger. So once again, that's cool. And then also the background of the board itself, when we get into that, that also looks pretty cool. Like, they have some overlay of like the One Piece map, and then this big splash image of all the Straw Hats in the center of the board. That looks neat as well. So those are probably the most positive things I have to say about this. Some of the chance cards and community chest cards are also kind of funny. Like, one of them is, Zoro, Luffy, and Kinemon need to get costumes, like that scene in Dressrosa, so they have to spend money for costumes. Another one is you took second place in a dancing contest because Dressrosa is the land of love and passion and dancing, so you, instead of the beauty contest, it's the dancing contest. So those some of the cards there were kind of clever in the way that they express these kind of scenarios, like, oh, sugar turned you into a toy, so you got to go to jail, you know, like that kind of stuff. It's like, all right, that's fine. Now, getting back to, at least I find, like, the main issue with this, and I kind of understand where they were going with this here, and I want to clarify, I have no idea what the process was of making a Monopoly game. I'm sure there's set rules and regulations that whatever publishing company had to, like, you know, follow in order to make the game. But when it comes to the locations, as I said previously, there's a lot of locations in One Piece, right? There's an abundance, you know, in terms of islands and kingdoms. And then when you get to the kingdoms, the individual locations in the island, you know, like, it's incredible, like, the amount of world building that Oda does, right? So you'd feel like there would be easily enough locations to fill a Monopoly board. Okay, so guess how many locations are spaces on this board? You know I wouldn't be asking you if it was something ridiculous, so just go ahead and guess. Yeah. 0. 0 spaces. Okay, well, actually, no, that's not true. That's not true. There is one. There is one named location that occupies a space on the game board. And unless you own this game or have played it before or looked it up, you're not going to guess what it is in a million years. Are you ready? I'll tell you. The one location that's on this board in the One Piece world is the Smile Factory at Dressrosa. That's it. Oh, and by the way, it's not even a location that you can own. It takes the place of the income tax spot in the original Monopoly game. So you land here, it's, you destroyed the Smile Factory, pay $200. So it just takes the place of that. They use the characters. So, like, you got the title deeds here for Luffy. By the way, Luffy's mortgage is $200. If you want to ever sell Luffy, there you go. So yeah, it's the exact same thing. It even still says title deed. It's the same thing as, like, a regular Monopoly game. It's just, you know, instead of like a street, it's the characters from One Piece. Now, why would they do this? Why would they use the characters instead of the locations that clearly exist in the One Piece world? So I should clarify that the One Piece Monopoly is not the only anime Monopoly that has come out in the last few years. The store I was in also had Naruto Shippuden Monopoly, Dragon Ball Z Monopoly, and Sailor Moon Monopoly. Now, granted, if you are going to adapt some anime into Monopoly boards, those 4 probably make the most sense for, like, a Western audience, because those anime were really, really big back in the 90s and then in the 2000s, you know, so Dragon Ball Z, Naruto, One Piece, and Sailor Moon, that makes sense on the ones that you would use. But they are all like that, by the way. They all just have the characters from the series as the property and locations that you can purchase on the game board, right? So with Naruto, like, the most expensive places on a regular Monopoly board, it would be Park Place and the Boardwalk, you know, the most expensive streets you can own to build property on. In the Naruto game board, it's Sasuke and Naruto. In the One Piece game board, it's Sabo and Luffy. You know, I can't remember what they are in Sailor Moon. I didn't really look into the Sailor Moon one too much. And the Dragon Ball Z one is obviously Goku, right? Okay, so that's what they were kind of doing here. That really gives me the idea that some meeting happened at some point and they were like, hey, let's make anime-themed Monopoly games. Oh, that sounds fun. Okay, which anime are we gonna pick? And they just, like, looked up, like, the most popular anime and, like, let's do Dragon Ball, Naruto, Sailor Moon, and One Piece. It's like, okay, cool. And they kind of just gave them off and just, like, yeah, just throw the characters on there. I guess maybe the idea is that the players can, like, you know, land on the spaces of their favorite characters and, like, oh, I want to purchase Goku. because Goku's my favorite character in Dragon Ball. It's like, oh, okay, let's do that. It's weird to like, it's because they're locations, they're streets in the original Monopoly. It's weird to use characters for this. But that's what they did. Now, when it comes to the railroads, because you can also own the railroads as property, those ones are a little clever. They use the yellow cab and the pink bee from like Dressrosa, and they also use the fighting bull Ushi and then the Sunny. The Sunny probably makes the most sense out of all of them as like a means of transportation. You probably could have just used different ships, or maybe different methods of transportation. Or hell, there does exist a sea train in One Piece. You actually have 2 of them, technically 3. You got the Puffing Tom, the Rocket Man, the Puffing Ice, which is the new sea train. And then I guess that's all the sea trains you have in One Piece. But you could have done maybe the 3 sea trains and then like the Sunny, or maybe the Mary, the Sunny, and then the Puffing Tom and the Rocket Man. Maybe throw in some other crazy means of transportation in the One Piece world, like the Maxim, like Eneru's Ark or something like that. Or maybe Law's submarine or something. You could have done that for like the railroads. So another reason why that stuff is not included, and you might also realize at this point I've been referencing a lot of stuff from the Dressrosa arc specifically. Well, that's because that is what this entire game board is based off of. It might as well actually be called like One Piece Dressrosa Edition Monopoly, because that's all it is. It's just the Dressrosa arc. None of the rest of the story is referenced or mentioned. So the characters to purchase are all characters that are in Dressrosa very prominently. All of the tax and like the other one, like so the income taxes, you destroyed the Smile Factory, the luxury tax space, which is at the end of the board on a regular Monopoly. This one is Wicca stole Zoro's sword. It's a very interesting thing to use in lieu of luxury tax, but yeah, so it's like references to that, and a lot of like the community chest cards will also reference that, like you defeated an officer of the Don Quixote pirates, collect $200. So yeah, it's all Dressrosa references. So if Dressrosa is your favorite One Piece arc specifically, then maybe you'll have a ball with this, I suppose. Let's see, what else? Let's talk about money. This is what the money looks like on the game board. They don't put the berry symbol anywhere. That was a little bit of like, oh man, that would have been easy to see. That's the thing. Like a lot of this, like I'm sure it was like following a plan. Like, oh, we're just going to make these monopolies. We're going to churn them out. We're just going to throw the characters on there on the board. But like, man, you could have really, it doesn't even take that much effort to go with more immersion than that. Maybe they didn't have all the copyright clearance, because I don't know how that works either. Maybe for some convoluted reason in copyright, they could only base it off of the Dressrosa arc and nothing else. Even then, I could probably come up with like enough locations in the Dressrosa arc. I mean, you got the Flower Hill, you got the Colosseum, you got the castle, you got Acacia, which is the port town, you got the Scrap Heap, which could maybe be used as the jail. You got all sorts of locations in Dressrosa you could even probably do better than just throwing the characters on there, but that was probably the reason. Maybe there was a reason they couldn't use, the berry symbol. They had to just make it like generic Monopoly money. This picture of the coins, I don't know what that's from. I think it's from one of the movies. I think it might be from Dead End Adventure, but I'm not 100% sure. It looks like it is from like one of the old school One Piece movies, like this actually image of the berries. Also, by the way, all of the money looks exactly like this, the exact same image, which is also, once again, it goes along with regular Monopoly. The only thing that changes is the color of the bills themselves. But still, I mean, like, provided that wasn't a restriction, like the money has to look this way, or you can't change too much about the board, provided that wasn't the case, you could have done some really cool stuff with this, right? That might also be the reason why they don't do anything with the 4 corners of the board. So you have the go space, the jail space, the go to jail space, and the free parking space. Those stay the same. And that made me a little bit like annoyed too, because I'm like, dude, there's a giant prison in One Piece. Impel Down, there's an entire arc that takes place in a giant prison. You could just like go to Impel Down and then look at the image of the cop on the original Monopoly board. He's blue and white. Those are the colors of the Marines, for God's sake. Just slap an image of Garp right there, like Garp space, go to jail. Or maybe one of the admirals or something, right? And then the jail space is Impel Down. So there is maybe a reason for that, because I have been looking at like the Dragon Ball Z and the Sailor Moon and the Naruto one. The four corners of that always stay the same. And I was looking at a lot of different versions of Monopoly, even the versions I played as a kid, like the Simpsons versions I was talking about. The four corners always stay the same. The only time, I had to do a lot of research in Monopoly boards for this, but the only time that the corners change is whenever there's like a Monopoly version of a specific city, like Omaha-opoly or New York-opoly or something like that. They will change the four corners for like that specific city. By the way, you heard me right. Yeah, there is a Omaha-opoly that does exist. From what I understand, there's different publishing companies that create these games. So maybe there's different rules depending on the publishing company. I don't know, but that's how they did it. Okay, that's what we got here. There are three types of properties in this game: characters, transportation, and then the one-legged soldier and koala spaces. Okay, so on the original Monopoly board, in addition to the streets and the railroads, there's also two utilities that you can purchase. You can purchase the electric company and the waterworks. And the way that those work is, if you just own one of them, rent is, I think, quadrupled. And then if you own both of them, it's like, 10 times the rent. So owning both of the utilities is really good in the original Monopoly. So in lieu of the utilities, instead you have koala's space and the one-legged soldier's space. And they do the same thing. Like here with Koala's card, it's if Koala is owned, rent is 4 times the amount shown on dice. If both Koala and the one-legged soldier are owned, rent is 10 times the amount shown on the dice. If you don't want to pay the listed price, the property goes up for auction. Auction. Did Doflamingo design this game? You know what? The more I think about it, I think this is Doflamingo. Yeah, because that makes sense with, like, the income tax space being, you destroyed the Smile Factory, pay $200. Why would the Straw Hats pay $200? They wanted to destroy the Smile Factory. Destroying the Smile Factory is a good thing. The only person it wasn't a good thing for was Doflamingo, because that was the part of his criminal organization. Doflamingo designed this.
Greetings, citizens of Dressrosa. I am your king, Don Quixote Doflamingo, with a special announcement. You know, when I first took control of this country, I could have ruled you all with an iron fist. Instead, I chose benevolence, as befits my beating heart. However, that benevolence was met with a slap in the face, so instead, I've decided to enact a death game. The birdcage surrounds the island. None of you will be allowed to leave or contact the outside world. In addition, I've used my strings to take possession of many of your bodies, which I will use to slaughter your friends and family by your own hands. There is only one way to escape this grisly fate, and that is to play my game. That's right. You will all now sit down and play Monopoly with me. You see, Diamante is always busy with the Coliseum, and Treble never wants to play. Pika's always down for a game, but let's be honest, Monopoly is not a 2-person game, nor is it a 3- or 4-person game. No, I'm going to subject the entire kingdom of Dressrosa to play my version of Monopoly, Dressosaopoly!
Oh, dude, it makes total sense. He does the game where he enacts, like, everybody has the star system and the bounties. Everybody has to go after the Straw Hats and, like, Kinemon and King Riku and Lon, everybody like that. Oh, it does make perfect sense, right? Although, even then, I feel like, it could have been done better because, like, do you know who the cheapest characters to purchase on the board is? So, like, the very first spaces on the board, so in the original Monopoly, I think it's Baltic and Mediterranean Avenue. Those spaces are occupied by Baby 5 and Leo. So, okay. Baby 5 and Leo. And then those are followed up by Mancheri, Viola, and Rebecca. Then in the pink spaces, we have Cavendish, Bartolomeo. finally in the orange spaces is when we start getting into the Straw Hats. They're not organized by bounty. They're organized by, it's kind of strange. They start by like the reverse order in which they joined. So it goes Brooke, Frankie, Robin. So like 9, 8, 7, like that works. Then Chopper number 6. Then it skips over Sanji and then places Usopp and then Nami. And then it goes Kinemon. And then Sanji and Zoro. I guess what they're doing there is like the monster trio is worth the most. So it goes Sanji, then Zoro in the yellow spaces. Then the green spaces are Law, Doflamingo, and Fujitora. And then finally the dark blue spaces are occupied by Sabo and Luffy. So it's like, you know, Sanji and then Zoro is worth more than Sanji and then Luffy. So there's like a little bit of a reference there to like, okay, I get it. However, if this is all based off of Dressrosa, something that would have been way funnier would be to put Usopp at the most expensive space at the boardwalk, because Usopp has the highest bounty in the Dressrosa arc because of the game, because he's God Usopp, right? Like that would have been funny, right? If Usopp was worth the most, right? If it was Luffy, then Usopp. That would have been great. You could have put Chopper as the cheapest because of his bounty. Like, the gimmick with his bounty is always, like, super, super low. He's never taken seriously. I don't know why Baby 5 is just arbitrarily put there as the cheapest space. Probably because they put, you know, no thought into where these characters would go outside of, like, yeah, we'll order the Straw Hats in a specific way. Other than that, just kind of throw them all on the board, like, who cares, whatever. Yeah, so that's kind of funny to me, and just like the order of where these locations were put, or these characters were placed on the board. Yeah, but anyway, that's mostly all I got to say about the board. The only thing I have left is to show you how I would make my version of One Piece Monopoly, right? So let's buckle down and let's actually do this. Okay, so we're gonna be using the locations, right, for like One Piece, because there's so many islands in One Piece. All right, so the first two spaces we're gonna start off with, we're going to have Fuchsia Village, followed up by Shellstown. Then moving on to the light blue spaces, we're going to have Orangetown, Syrup Village, and the Baratier. Then in the pink spaces, we're going to have Arlong Park, followed by Logtown, followed by the Twin Capes. Going into the orange spaces, we're getting into the Grand Line. We're going to have Whiskey Peak, Little Garden, Drum Island. Then in the red spaces, we got Alabasta, Jaya, Skypiea. Yellow spaces are going to be Long Ring Longland, Water 7, and East Lobby. Following that up with the green spaces, we're going to have Thriller Bark, we're going to have Sabaody Archipelago, and Amazon Lily. And then finally in the dark blue spaces, we're going to have Marineford and Marie-Joie. There you go. And that's just pre-time skip One Piece. Like I said, there's so many locations that doesn't even cover like the rest of the second half of the story. That's just that alone. We could have Gaimon be the free parking space, throw Garp in the go to jail space, Impel Down is the jail space, obviously. For the railroads, I already mentioned we could do like the sea trains, or we could just do like, you know, Puffing Tom, Rocket Man, and then the Mary and the Sunny as the different locations for the railroad. That works. Income tax could be the heavenly tribute. You could have like an image of the Tenryubito or just a symbol of the world government and be like income tax. You know, there you go. The luxury tax could be just an image of Charlos or something. Right? There's like, when it comes to the chants and community chest spaces, I think they did those pretty well. Just like treasure chests and then the flag symbol. That's fine. I think that works great. For utilities, you can make them devil fruits, maybe. You know, instead of the electric company, you could have the Goro Goro no Mi, which is Eneru's fruit. For the waterworks, you could have, okay, I'm kind of at a loss for waterworks. Maybe we can make Water 7 the waterworks, because that kind of makes more sense. And then maybe throw another island in there, because it's not like we have, like, a shortage, like, I don't know, like, shift everything back a little bit and throw like, I don't know, Ruskina in there or something like that. Fine, it doesn't really matter. There's enough islands to work with, right? So, yeah, but how would you design a One Piece Monopoly board? What spaces would you like to have on there? Dude, I just thought of another thing. Like, you could have, like, the image of the town or the island. Like, you could have an image of Drum Island, but then you could have a little image of, like, Chopper down in the bottom of it. Like, maybe the image of the island, and then the character is, like, holding the sign of how much money it's worth, like how many berries to purchase, you know, Drum Island or something, and, like, Chopper's holding the sign, and then for, like, Alabasta, it's like Vivi holding the sign, and then like Frankie's holding Water 7 or something, like little image of the characters. For Impel Down, there's that little space that says just visiting. Maybe you can have Boa in just visiting because she was just visiting. Like, there's ways you could do this. That would be kind of funny, right? Like, whatever. It's okay. Anyway, just wanted to make a video about the One Piece Monopoly game for some reason. I put way too much effort into this than I should have. Anyway, thanks for watching, everybody. This will be Teching 101 signing out. Merry Christmas.